When God had finished His creation, everything was wonderful. And His words were, "It is very good." But Satan didn't wait very long. I don't know how long Adam and Eve were in the garden, but I imagine that very soon Satan set his eyes on those two. And in the following temptation of Eve to eat the fruit that God had said not to eat, she fell and also provided to her husband. And in that moment, Satan flipped everything that God had made beautifully. Now, there was pain, difficulty, trial. Now God looked at the man and the woman and He cursed them to suffer in ways that they should not have had to, had they not sinned. But the natural byproduct of sin brings consequences, and they had to suffer. And everything that God had made was now under the control of the evil one. And we have been suffering ever since. There's not a person in this room who has not been touched by the ravages of evil. There's not a one amongst us who can say, "I don't have or know how bad evil can be," because we experience it every day on a continuing basis. It is probably the case. In fact, I'm sure of it, that every one of us is struggling right now. Struggling with overcoming something evil that has invaded our lives. Maybe you've been battling for a long time. Maybe you continue to battle. But certainly all of us battling, struggling, dealing with the ravages of evil, we understand how damaged this world has become because of the actions of the evil one. But thanks be to God this morning that we know the other side of the story. That Jesus came to turn evil on its head. Because after He cursed the actions of Adam and Eve, He looked at the devil, and in a prophetic voice, here's what God said: "I'll put enmity between you and the woman, between her seed and your seed. You shall bruise his heel. He will bruise your head." And in that prophetic statement of the long ago, God said, "Okay, you flipped it for now. But Jesus is coming. And when He comes, He will take the evil that you have brought, and He will turn that evil upside down on its head." For just a few minutes, notice with me how Jesus turned evil on its head. And in an encouraging way to all of us who are struggling with our own deep-seated secrets and sins, to recognize that the only real cure, the only way we can overcome, the only way we can get past whatever it is we are working on is through the agency of Jesus in our lives and allowing Him to have control. Let's notice together what Jesus did. Jesus took the irritation of evil and brought a soothing. When the people of God were about to cross over into the promised land, God warned them in Numbers 33 in verse 55. When you cross over into the land, be sure to wipe them out. God wanted them to destroy the people of the land because that was God's punishment on their evil. But notice what He said in verse 55. If you fail, they will be as irritants to your eyes and thorns in your side to harass you all the days of your life. Either remove that evil or it will continue to irritate you. Listen what Jesus said about Himself in Revelation 3 and verse 18. He counseled that church when He said, I counsel to you to buy gold from me that's been refined in the fire, and eye salve, that you might see the evil with which we struggle on a daily basis. The evil that has invaded my and your personal lives is irritating, isn't it? Doesn't it bother you? Doesn't it hurt? Doesn't it feel like that pebble that gets in your shoe and you just always have it and you can't get rid of it? Jesus said, I came to soothe the irritant. Number two, Jesus came to take the corruption that evil brings and to purify it. In 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 33, Paul told us this: evil company corrupts good habits. But in Titus 2 and verse 14, the Bible says that Jesus came to purify unto Himself His own special people, zealous for good works. Sometimes, don't you feel dirty? Don't you feel like you need to bathe and have a bath and get rid of the nastiness that has invaded your life? Jesus said, I'll purify you. I'll wash you. I'll get rid of the corruption. And I'll make it pure again. Third, Jesus came to take the confusion that evil brings and instead to bring peace. Now I am confused. James said, wherever envy and evil seek, or wherever envy and self-seeking are, is evil and every wicked thing and confusion. Evil brings confusion into life. But listen to what Jesus did in Ephesians chapter 2. When he says that he broke down the dividing wall between the two and made peace between Jews and Gentiles. No more is there the confusion of your testament and us. We're special and you're not. Now he brought peace to warring groups. Because Jesus says, I take confusion and I bring peace. Number 4, Jesus took the hate that comes along with evil and turns it into love. In John 7 and verse 7, it was Jesus who said, the world doesn't hate you, but it hates me because I testify that they are evil. Because they were evil, they hated that which was good. But what did Jesus say? I'm going to turn that around. And I'm going to help you love those who are evil. Matthew 5 and 44, love your enemies. Do good to them that despise you. When the world hates what is good, Jesus turns it on its head, giving us the ability to love those who hate. And even when you hate yourself, because evil has come, and because you've given in and you're struggling and you hate yourself, Jesus says, I'll fix it. You can love yourself again. Next, Jesus makes bad neighbors neighborly. The Proverbs writer in chapter 21 and verse 10 said, the wicked always seek for what is evil. The neighbor finds no favor in his sight. It's not good to be a neighbor to an evil person, because all they want to do is whatever benefits them. But Jesus said, I flipped that around. Because Jesus said, the second greatest command, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And every time someone loves an evil neighbor, that person realizes that Jesus has flipped evil right on its head. Again, Jesus took evil that tries to gain an advantage over people and instead helps them learn to serve people. In Jude verse 16, the writer speaks about those who, with great swelling words, try to gain advantage over people. That's what evil does. Whatever they can do to get an advantage in the situation, whatever they can do to be one up, But Jesus came and flipped it. And in Mark 10, starting in verse 43, whoever wants to be great among you, let him be your servant. For he wants to be first of all, must be servant of all. Jesus just flipped that entire concept on its head. Again, Jesus came to take the bitterness that evil brings and to change it from bitterness to something that is good and right and clean and nice. The Hebrew writer in chapter 12 spoke about those who need to understand that bitterness can invade your life and cause others to stumble. You've seen it, right? Maybe you felt it yourself. Maybe your own bitterness at your own sin has caused you to lash out, to be rough with somebody else, to be mean and nasty in a situation. Jesus said, I'll fix that bitterness and I'll turn it upside down, because he helps us to understand in James chapter 1 that we endure the trials and the troubles of life because in so doing it brings patience. Jesus said, I'll change. And I'll take that bitterness, and you can learn the joy that comes by enduring the difficulties of life. But finally, Jesus takes the natural deception that comes with evil and replaces it with truth. Again, the Hebrew writer warned in chapter 3, beware today while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. Beware. Sin is deceptive. And if you dabble in it too long, it will deceive you into thinking it's not that big a deal. But then Jesus reminds us in John 8 and verse 32, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Do you feel like you're in the bondage of the deception of evil? That you've given in to this evil, and now it has become your new truth, when in reality you're bound? You see, here's what happens. Evil comes, and evil causes continual irritation. It corrupts completely, and it causes confusion in life. And it brings hate to your heart, making you a bad neighbor because you want to take advantage of people. And it makes you bitter because you've been deceived. But Jesus says, I'll soothe that irritation. I'll purify that corruption. I'll bring peace to the confusion. And I turn those bad neighbors into good neighbors. And I'll help you love instead of hate. And I'll make sure that you understand that you can be joyous instead of bitter. And I'll give you the truth that'll help you stand against all the situations. I close with this graphic. Jesus turned evil on its head. And now we can live. That's what evil does. Jesus took evil, flipped it upside down. You want to live? You got to get rid of the evil. What did he say? John 10, verse 10. I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. And the world says, I think you ought to have fun. Here's how to do it. And look at all of these things that people say are evil, but it's really wonderful. It's how to be fulfilled. It makes you happy to do what you want to do. Jesus said, I got a better idea. Flip the evil upside down and live the abundant life. That's what Jesus offers. That's how we overcome the struggles we deal with. That's what he wants for you and me. Today, if you need to flip evil on its head so that you can live, it begins by being submissive and obedient to the Master who flipped the evil and brings new life through baptism. And it continues by living faithfully, battling the evil that is there, so that when you stray, you can come back and live again. Today, can we help you? Do you need us to pray with and for you? We're here if you need us while we stand and sing together.